Alright, Jacob Cordero here at Top Geek over at Smoking Meat Geeks, and what we're going to do today is take a look at the Pit Barrel versus the Pit Barrel Junior. Right now there's been a lot of questions as to the difference between these two. The one thing right off the bat that stands out is the $100. So the Pit Barrel Junior comes in at $249. The standard Pit Barrel is going to be $349. So what we want to do is kind of just run it through and see how the cook process differs between the two, see the size dimensions, and I'll just kind of give you a quick rundown on the dimensions right now. We're looking at 36 inches tall for the standard Pit Barrel. The Pit Barrel Junior is 33 inches tall, so not a huge difference there. When it comes to how wide they are, you're looking at about a 3-inch difference between the Junior and the standard. The Junior comes in at 21 inches wide, while your standard Pit Barrel is going to be 25 inches wide. So those are some of the biggest differences right off the bat. The rest we're actually going to go through and kind of, as we're smoking the meat, as we're putting it on, as we're pulling it out, you'll be able to get some differences. We're also going to unbox it in just a second and then lay out all the parts so you can kind of compare apples to apples and figure out for you, if the $100 is something that you should, spend on, or if just, for the family, or if you like to do a lot of those outdoor outings, that the Pit Barrel Junior might just be right for you. Okay, so on the left side, we're going to have the Pit Barrel Junior laid out for you here. And then on the right side, we've got the standard Pit Barrel cooker. So let's just kind of go through the Junior real quick. You can see the difference here in the baskets as far as the size. Height-wise, there's also a difference. So you can see here, got a little bit of a difference on height. But mainly it's just how wide each one is. So obviously you won't be able to hold as much charcoal in the Junior, and so what we really want to see is, does that make a difference as far as how much cook time does the Junior have compared to the standard Pit Barrel, and then how does heat also look as well. So our stands are roughly the same, minus of course the width on those. So you can see those two in comparison here. And let's just show the lids real quick. Let's get that lid out so that we can just really get an eyeball for size on width on the two of these. Okay, so then here we've got the Pit Barrel Junior lid and then your standard Pit Barrel lid. So a significant difference there as far as the width on those goes. And then they both come with your standard rods that are going to go through there. Obviously the one for the Pit Barrel standard Pit Barrel is going to be a little longer here, right? And so that just kind of makes sense as the other one's wider. And then so in the boxes we've got our attachment for the lid. Here's the attachment here. And then the standard Pit Barrel is going to come with 8 hooks, while your Junior is going to come with 4. Okay, so let's take a look. And then of course they do include some of their standard rubs to give a try out for those, and of course your instruction manuals and a cool sticker. So that's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Pit Barrels side by side. That way you can get a quick above view shot of them to compare the two. Okay, so we've got our standard Pit Barrel here, obviously, and then the Junior here. So you can see the size difference just to kind of compare. All right, we're back here from the Pit Barrel cook all day, about 8 hours on our cook. We went ahead and put both of these pork butts on and just pulled them off, and they just look absolutely delicious. This here on the left, on my left, is the one we put on the regular size Pit Barrel cooker. And then here we have the one that we put on the Junior. We basically took a pork butt, cut it in half, and for the sake of also timing, just kind of threw both of these bad boys on. And so you can see that the Pit Barrel cooker always does a good job at yielding that really nice spark, and looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks great. I've been looking forward to this for about 8 hours now.
Right.
Yeah, so you've used the Pit Barrel a lot before.
Yeah, we've used it. It's actually our top pick for our best smoker under $500. So we actually never took a look at the Junior until today. We've always used the regular standard size pit barrel. It's pretty much automatic. I mean, you put it in there and you can literally come back 10 hours later and it basically does the same thing throughout the entire time. So that was one of the reasons we liked it the most for not only a beginner, but for the price point and something that you can kind of just set and forget without any kind of fans or any other controllers. Maintains that temperature just like you want. Tends to run around 265, but I don't mind that. I like that temperature.
Yeah, didn't even touch it from the minute the lid went on, right?
Yeah, for the pit barrel standard cooker, we put it in there at about 3 o'clock and pulled it off about 8 hours later. We never opened the lid once, never checked anything. You can see that the temperature on the graph there shows that it maintained a consistent temperature throughout that entire cook process. So that's definitely what you're looking for.
Okay. Now, how about the Pit Barrel Junior? What's the difference between the regular and the junior size?
Oh man, that looks great. So on the regular pit barrel, you're looking at about a 50-pound barrel versus the Junior where you're around 30 pounds.
So what was it like actually loading the coals and the pork into the Pit Barrel Junior?
Yeah, so after using the standard pit barrel for so long, you get used to that size. And so when we went to load it up, we found that on the Pit Barrel Junior, the space that you have obviously is 18 to 14, like in the diameter, we're looking at that difference there. So I think the Junior is 21 inches wide, the Pit Barrel is 25 inches wide. So that's a pretty good size difference when you're actually trying to get into the barrel. Mm-hmm. So on the Pit Barrel Junior, it was a little tighter getting around the rods. And then especially when it went to like actually pulling it off, you have to practically cradle the meat with one hand and then pull one of the rods out as you lift it up. It's not as easy as on the standard pit barrel where you can basically grab the meat and pull it right out.
Yeah.
You're definitely going to notice that difference in size there when you put it on.
Yeah, so that was awkward going in. Too much. We pulled one of the cold rods out because the fire wasn't barely going.
Right.
But getting the hot rod out of there was a bit of an adventure while not dropping the pork.
Right.
That was a little tough. So how did things start off? We get the pork on the fire. What happened next?
Yeah, so I think that's one of the big differences with the Pit Barrel Junior is that basically any small little things that you do to it affect the temperature practically about 50 to 60%, almost double what they would be in the pit barrel. So let me explain. On the pit barrel, for example, if you notice that you're running a little low in temperature and you want to kick things up a notch, you basically crack the lid for just 4 or 5 minutes, and it's basically going to jump 5 to 10 degrees within that window. Now with the Pit Barrel Junior, if you do something similar to that, you're going to get that same effect in about half the time. So that was one of the things that we definitely noticed. And I think when we put on the meat, we loaded up the pit barrel first and then went to load up the Junior.
So it had a head start on the charcoal.
Exactly. So by the time we had loaded the charcoal in and the lid was off and we went to go put the meat in, well, it was probably exposed to the full oxygen for maybe about 2 minutes, a minute and a half longer, which was just long enough to kick that thing up to right around 300 degrees within the first 15 minutes, first 20 minutes of the cook. While the senior pit barrel or the standard pit barrel basically, did its thing, climbed up from, 200 to 225, and eventually got up to right around where it likes to be, around that 250 range.
Okay.
So the thing with that is, I think we burned through quite a bit of the coal that we really weren't supposed to ignite and get agitated and get going right early on. So you can see on the graph, the Pit Barrel Junior had that real big start out the gate, right around, running around 300 within an hour. So that seemed to cause a few problems as we got into the stall area where it needed that extra gas to kind of get through there. It almost seemed like the coals didn't have enough juice to really kind of power it through that stall as well as the standard pit barrel. So I feel like we definitely need to make sure that, we in the future using the Pit Barrel Junior that we stick more to the script on how you load it up.
Yeah, be on the really tight timeline there.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, because we were able to get the temperature down into the sort of normal smoking range, right?
Yeah, eventually it got to where it needed to be, probably about after the hour and a half, but we had to adjust the vent. So we wanted to basically get it from where it was around 320 degrees and get it back down to that comfortable 250, 260 range. So we decided to close the vent. Here in Arizona, we're at about 1,200 feet, so that's about a quarter of the way open.
Okay.
So we ended up closing it pretty much all the way, and then that in about a half hour after we closed it, it started to drop where we really wanted to see that temperature at.
Okay, so once we actually got into the good cooking zone, how did things roll? What did you have to do to the Pit Barrel Junior?
Yeah, and at one point it just seemed like with the Pit Barrel Junior, like I said, that stall area, it just kind of got stuck there. Normally your stall is going to stick for 2 to 3 hours. You can stay at that, that 250 or that 150 range. But it just seemed a little too long. What we noticed is that eventually the Pit Barrel Junior looked like it was, the fat and the drippings from the meat were kind of extinguishing the coals. And so right about 2 hours before the end of the cook, we lifted up the lid to kind of check on it, and we noticed that there was probably a handful of coals left that hadn't been burnt, but they weren't going very well. So the rest had already been burnt off, and then some were sitting kind of in the corner. So we basically ended up just loading up, maybe another 10 or 11, briquettes in there, and then dropped the lid on, and it finished the cook. And it actually caught up right to the neck and neck with the senior pit barrel right towards the end. So it actually covered probably a good 30 degrees of internal meat temperature in the same time that the senior pit barrel did about 15.
Okay,
so 20. So
yeah, so it had worked its way through the stall. It was just our fire management wasn't quite there.
Yeah, exactly. So it was building up the energy that it needed for heat. So as soon as it got back to its 230 and then jumped back up to like right around 280, I believe it was, it brought it right out of the right out into the final lap of its cook. So yeah, I was surprised they both finished right at the same time, and you can see our products are fairly similar. But I think there's a lot of benefits to both. Obviously price point is one, however it kind of comes down to the way that you cook and the way like you're planning on and your intent on using this. I think that's a big deciding factor on which one of the two you really want to go with.
Okay. What is your overall opinion of the Pit Barrel Junior? Is it something you might like to have around?
Yeah, so I think like the Pit Barrel Junior's definitely got its strengths. I prefer myself the standard pit barrel just because I like to, I like to entertain. I like to be able to cook for a party, whatever it might be. And even if I take it out like on the move, typically I'm taking it out to go, hang out with other people and that kind of thing. So for me, I think my style fits, the standard pit barrel, right? Now I could see a lot of reasons why somebody may want the Junior. Obviously the obvious reason, it's about 20 pounds lighter, right?
Yeah, I could see that being a problem.
Yeah, so I mean, you got to empty this thing. It's got ashes, right? So you're going to need to be able to basically deadlift that thing, flip it over, and dump it out. And so if 50 pounds doesn't sound like something that you want to be picking up, right? We're not talking about a 50-gallon, drum here, but I mean, we're talking 50 pounds.
That's not nothing.
Right.
So where do you see yourself using the Pit Barrel Junior?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of places where, like, let's say, for example, you do tailgating or you go camping. We talked a little bit about that. I mean, if you're going camping and you want something that's self-sustaining, the pit barrel all the way around is, a great deal. It works on its own. You can load everything up inside the barrel, your charcoal, everything you're going to need, throw it in the back of the truck. And, when you show up, it's not like you really need a whole lot to run this thing for 8 to 10 hours.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I really liked about the pit barrel initially. So I feel like those are some good areas for it. And so if you plan on moving it around, the Pit Barrel Junior may be something to consider. I think like ultimately it comes down to like volume of how much you want to cook, right?
Yeah.
So like, do you want to try to cook, more than one pork butt? Right?
Yeah.
So that's where like the limit would be. Like, you're not going to put more than one pork butt in a Pit Barrel Junior.
right?
Putting one pork butt in there was a bit of an adventure.
Right, and I can get 2 pork butts in the standard pit barrel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, and you could probably fit 2 turkeys in a standard one, like maybe, you know, regular sized turkeys. And so that's definitely something to consider, you know, if you plan on doing that. Because it's nice, if you're going to do something for 10 hours, I'd like to be able to yield, right, maximum, even if it's just, you know, like to set it, you know, like maybe for another day or something like that. You know, that's definitely the way to go, especially for your 10 hours of labor that you put in.
Sure. How about the value? Do you think the difference of $100 is significant here? $100 is a lot of pork.
Yeah, I think there's value to be had in saving the $100 if you don't plan on cooking large amounts of food, right? Because it's easier to move, it's easier to work with. You know, it's kind of one of those things where, again, it comes down to like what's your preference and what's your style. For me, I'm going to spend the extra $100. My only concern is just, you know, the amount of volume that you're looking at, and you got to baby it a little bit more, right? So this is definitely something you can set and forget, but you can make less mistakes with the Pit Barrel Junior than you can with the Senior. The Senior gives a little bit more margin for error.
Kind of more the big truck instead of the sports car.
Yeah, exactly. So Pit Barrel Junior is family owned and operated. They're out of Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah. And military owned and operated as well. So, you basically have to go to their website to purchase. They don't sell on Amazon. So if you're looking to grab the Pit Barrel or the Pit Barrel Junior, you'll need to go directly to their website to grab it. And if you actually click the link in the bottom of the video, they end up giving us a kickback credit for you having made the purchase, which is how we do a lot of these different reviews and videos.
All right.
So, but yeah, all in all, Pit Barrel Junior $249 comes in at about 60% smaller. I think we did the math on it.
Yeah. About the same height, about 60% less area.
Yeah, and then the Pit Barrel Standard, or Senior as I like to call it.
Yep.
$349, and they do actually offer financing on their website.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't know that, which I didn't even really know that till not too long ago. I got on there and saw that. So they have financing options on there. So for the price, I mean, you're going to end up with probably one of the best smokers that you can buy that's going to rival smokers that you're going to end up, you know, you can drop, you know, $1,500 on a smoker that is really the bottom line, right? Is I didn't have to check on it. I didn't have to open the lid, and here's my final product, right? So, you know, if you can do that and get away with it for under, you know, $400, $300, that's a pretty darn good deal.
All right, so the Pit Barrel Smoker, our best smoker under $500. Pit Barrel Junior, maybe our second best smoker under $500. For Smoking Meat Geeks, I'm Nate. This is Jacob. Like and subscribe, and keep watching us for more videos here.
All right, awesome. We're gonna dig in.
Let's do it.
Yes. And some cool music playing in the background.
I have a feeling there's going to be some really stupid moments.
I think I'd choke like twice.